All right, well, let's meet our candidates for the office of City Council. We have with us tonight Rolf Strassenberg for District City 1. Brad Waller is here tonight. Chad Castle for District 2, along with Louis Burke is here tonight. All right, and then we have for District 4, Zane Abaji. Let's welcome all of our candidates here tonight. Well, great to see everyone tonight, and if you weren't with us tonight, this is not your normal debate. There's a host of issues we want to get to. Every candidate will not be asked to respond to all the particular issues for a number of reasons. We want to shake things up a little bit. There are a number of pressing things that are happening in our city, and too much is at stake for us to just sort of go through the motions. So with that, we'll get started here. We'll have about 2 minutes for your response, but if I sense a filibuster in, I'll cut you off like a ham hock on a backwoods of Mississippi or something, all right? Whatever that means. Let's begin tonight. All right, what's your definition of leadership? Let's start right here. Go for it, Louis. Definition of leadership.
Is this on? Okay.
Yeah.
There's a little switch. Leadership. I believe leadership is following in the footsteps of our predecessors, actually. When we think about taking the lead and taking the city forward, we actually have to look back and see what's happened. And this building right here, it's so nice to be in this building. In 1972, it was actually under threat of being demolished so that they could put up 2 giant high-rises right here in this park. And so today we have the same kind of call coming up, and I believe that looking back at that, and when my dad ran in 72, he voted this thing down, and look at the beautiful view we have today instead of a couple high-rise buildings. So I think leadership is looking back and taking us forward in the same direction.
All right, Zane, I want to hear from you. Definition of leadership. Where's leadership?
Leadership, in my opinion, is having initiative. Initiative to not just accept the status quo, but to see what we can accomplish further. In addition, leadership, as has been taught by Councilmember Kalajerovich, is diplomacy. The ability to work with all different types of people with different opinions to achieve the result that's intended. And diplomacy also means that when you're initiating change in the city, you respect the staff expertise that has brought the status quo, and you initiate change without insulting their expertise or knowledge, but by showing that there's a better way to achieve things or better results that we can achieve.
Okay, Brad, let me hear from you. Leadership.
Very much what Zane said. I will agree with all that. And I will add to that leadership means that you can't be afraid to step up and make the hard decisions, deal with the decisions, listen to everybody, figure out how to collaborate and cooperate and move forward. Let's get things done and move forward.
All right, Rolf, let me hear from you on leadership.
Thank you, Goody. Yeah, it starts with the listening and the learning. And as I'm out campaigning, going door to door, you get so many viewpoints from different people. And you learn very quickly, we don't all agree on things. There are some things that a lot of us agree on. And leadership to me is gathering all that and being the focal point to bring it all together and say, this is what the people really want. This is what they want in their lives. This is what they want to see in their community. But you've got to put all that together, and you can have your own personal opinions and shoot those back and forth with somebody you're talking to. But in the end, you need to be flexible enough to go with what the people really want. So to me, it's really the listening, the learning, and putting it all together.
All right. Castle, let me hear from you on leadership.
Thank you. I agree with Rolf that leadership is really about representing everyone, going out, talking to everyone, getting their opinions, and being the one to gather all the information and make the decisions that, to represent where everyone wants to go. Listening to the past, where we were, and taking the steps that everyone wants to go into the future.
All right. Let's get into some issues. And by the way, these questions are not necessarily focused on your district per se. As a city council person, you represent your district, but you are the city council of Redondo Beach. Okay, so a lot of these questions are germane to the whole. So let's begin with a couple of issues here. Let's talk about the bond measure, FP. fire, police. Over 70% of our voters approved of it. Went to improve that of buildings, address equipment, update systems, etc. As a elected official, I guess you would be the only one for you, Zane, but as a citizen, did you vote for Measure FP? Measure FP, by show of hands, who voted for it? Who voted for it? And then let's continue that then. How important it is, and what specifically are you willing to do to reinforce this importance of our first responders being supported in every way that you possibly can as a member of the City Council? What specifically are you willing to do to make sure that our fire and police departments have all the support they need? I want to begin with you, Zane.
Well, let me say that during FP, it's not just did you vote for it, but what did you do to support? And I'll say that in Redondo Beach, we had Scott Barrett in District 5, me in District 4, Paige Calgerovich in District 3, and Chadwick Castle in District 2, distributing all those lawn signs that you saw everywhere. I get a request from District 2, text message in a group chat, Chadwick Castle, I'll get it dropped tonight. So proof of what you'll do in the future is evidenced by what you did in the past. And we added, during my time in the last budget, we added 2 traffic enforcement officers to the Redondo Beach Police Department. The first time in a very long time that we added police officers to the police department, because residents are demanding streets that are safe for our cars, for our residents, pedestrians, our bicyclists, our e-bicyclists, and they want enforcement.
Okay, Brad, what about you? You weren't elected, but what would you willing to do? It's the first day in office for you as a member of the City Council. You're gonna put your support to ensure that both our fire and police department feels supported and encouraged. What does that look like for you specifically? What are you willing to push forward?
The way that we can afford to continue doing the things like Zane mentioned, putting more police on the street, having fully staffed fire and police forces, is to increase the revenue in the city. So if we can start attracting some businesses, supporting businesses, bring in, we've got California Surf Club, which is a great example, but let's put in some cool businesses along PCH between Avenue A and Nob Hill, or Avenue A and B, where we've got a bunch of vacancies. We've got a bunch of vacancies around the city in North Redondo, Artesia, Aviation. If we can fill those with cool businesses, bring in extra sales tax revenue, that increases the revenue, and that's the easiest way to be able to support our employees, because then we can spend the money. We'll have that money.
Okay, Chad, Castle, I'm gonna come to you. Everyone, I don't know if you can see what I'm seeing here, but this only happens once on a day like today. If we're fortunate to be here tomorrow on this earth, maybe we'll see something similar. The sun is setting in the west, and it's absolutely stunning. Let's just pause for a moment just to appreciate that.
If my wife were here, I'd have to kiss her.
That is awesome. What a great venue. What a great night. Come on, Redondo. Show some love for yourself, for this venue, for our host. Beautiful night. All right. Sorry about that, Chadwick. Let me hear from you.
So one of the reasons that we all moved to Redondo is for the beautiful sunset, and that is it's a safe place to live. So public safety is key to all of the residents in Redondo Beach. And with Measure FP, the city came up with an estimate for replacing these fire and police stations of approximately $93 million. And that included some room for reserves and cost increases and such. But one of the issues that's come up immediately after that is that we had the fire in the Palisades. One of the issues with that is that while we're trying to build our new stations here in Redondo, there's going to be a huge demand for construction materials. So the price of construction materials, through no fault of our own, probably will go up and be higher than we originally estimated. Same with labor for the completion of the stations. So one of the key things I would do on the city council would be trying to make sure that we come in as close to budget as possible on these 2 projects, rebuilding all 3 stations. I think that's going to be critical in the future.
Okay, supporting of our first responders.
Yeah, let's add to that. Chad said a good point. There's a lot of money, 93 million. So I think that there should be a public oversight committee making sure there's no fraud, waste, and abuse, because that's a lot of money that these citizens have to put out, as part of this bond. This is the kind of thing that, for me, is important, because you see it nationwide, and it's happening like the money is just being spent so loosely, and it has to be tracked. And everybody here supports the fire and the police. I do too, and that's why I voted for that. And I think that if we can get that money appropriated correctly, then we'll be in good shape here in Redondo Beach.
Okay, and I think we'll close with you on this question.
Thank you, sir. FP was about facilities. If you've got first-class facilities, it really helps to attract the great people that you want. Look around us here. This is a great facility. Meg's going to come in and redo a lot of it and make it even nicer. But having that facility where we can attract the people, the best people, to come to work in Redondo as part of the package, because I've been to our stations and they're dilapidated. We keep doing Band-Aids, but now we've got that chance to really redo them. 6-8 years ago, when I was talking to some of our police, the estimate then was like 30 million to do certain things, and there's no way we'll ever get that. And all of a sudden, FP was on the ballot and happened fast. I don't know, the mood just seemed right, but to go for 93 million was a bit of a risk, but the support was huge. And the fact that we have now to work with for these facilities, it frees up funds that we would otherwise be throwing at maintaining these places. When you rebuild a house, you don't have to do that heavy maintenance when it's new. So with that, talking to Chief Hoffman, I would love to get 2 more motors. For those of you who don't know, that's the nickname for our motorcycle police officers that handle the traffic. Over and over, what I hear from residents is traffic. You got to do something about the traffic. And traffic needs enforcement. Unfortunately, it just does. So I'd love to see it. I would be happy with 1 if we could get 2 more motors. That would be fantastic and complement what we have now. And it's also somewhat of a risky job because they're out on workman's comp at different times, and so we very rarely have it fully staffed. So getting those first-class facilities, attracting the talent, because we need that continual influx of new talent. And luckily, we've had people that have stayed here for decades. You mentioned Don Naylor earlier. He'd been here for a long time. And his daughter actually used to babysit for us. You get to know the community. So first-class facilities, attracting the first-class people, giving them a great place to work, and supporting them with the equipment they need and the funding and the wages too. I mean, we've got to stay competitive.
Okay. All right, let's talk about our city staff and then of course, just City Hall. Some of the conversations I've been having with business leaders, I've talked to people within the faith community, I've talked to some just private citizens, and one of the things I've heard specifically is the interfacing with staff. It's what we call staff, city staff. And then our systems, uploading documents, coming into the city offices to get things related to a permit, or downloading materials as it relates to architectural building, et cetera, et cetera. Some of the comments I've heard has been about, in addition to systems, just overall culture, overall receptivity to, as staff, wanting to do well by our citizens. I've heard a lot of frustration. Our city staff, I know, works hard. Well, what is something specifically you would like to see, or you would envision, or you would just try to advocate to make sure we have a better working relationship with our citizens as they interface with people within our staff here at Redondo Beach? I want to start with you, Castle.
Sure. In campaigning, I started talking to lots of
Put your mic closer.
Talking to lots of voters within District 2, but also lots of business owners, so people who don't necessarily live in District 2, but work and have businesses here. And that was a common frustration, is the permitting process. So if you're opening up a business or doing renovations in your home or in your business, the city's response time was historically very, very slow. So as part of the process, I also met with Mike Wazansky, our city manager, to talk to him about that. And he told me about a new program that they're implementing right now and just beginning to roll out to automate a lot of those processes and better track when people initially file permits and where they are in the process. So hopefully that will speed up response times, both for the city and also for the business owners and residents across Redondo.
Okay, Zane, I want to turn to you since you're currently on council. You've possibly heard some of this. What do you think we can do better? I know our staff works hard. There are some things they're doing well, but what do you think we can do better as it
So let me
relates to
say,
interfacing?
the first thing that occurred after I got elected is Councilmembers Lowenstein and Nierenheim were like, we need a new city manager. And they hired Mike Wazanski as city manager, demanding excellence basically thoroughly throughout our city systems. Since that time, almost every single one of our department heads has changed. Now, we have excellent staff in the city. Some of the systems are broken. For example, I had to get a replacement parking pass, so you can park at the parking permits for free. I went in and she said, Zane, you're a council member. Oh my God, help us. In October, there is a line out the door into the courtyard with everybody seeking their parking permits as well as their preferential parking permits. If you have one of those preferential parking permits in your neighborhood, why is that taking place in person? Why does that take a human to administrate it? Why does it all congregate in October and jam everybody up, residents up? There's a better way to do that. And so we put it on our strategic plan that actually come next month, we're gonna have a report on all the systems that can be automated, put online to advance. And I'll tell you this, the staff in the city want better systems, but the initiative has to come from the council to say, hey, we're gonna fund the changes. We wanna investigate what improvements can be made, and we're gonna fund the changes.
Okay, I want to turn now to a group of people, a population within our city. There are 9,500 plus of them, 13 different facilities. One particular entity has nearly 3,000 of them gathered in any given time. Talking about our Redondo Beach Unified School District and even obviously the high school there. Have you visited the high school, met with any representatives from the superintendent's office, the school district, to share your vision and how you can support them, will support them as a candidate? I want to hear from everyone on this. That's a large constituency. If you just do the math, you factor the students, multiply that times the potential amount of people in a family home, let's say both parents in a home, now you're upwards of 20,000, right? Not to mention siblings, cats and dogs and fish. We could talk in 30,000 people, right? Okay. Have you visited the school district, met with the superintendent, any representatives from any of the schools, shared your vision as a candidate, as a parent, talk to them, hear their issues, their concerns? I want to hear from everyone on this, and I won't even go in any particular order. I'll let you lean in. Go ahead, I'll wait.
I'll start then. Not quite a fair question for some of us. I've got 8 years on the school board. I've been off for 4, so I was there when we were building that facility at the high school. I was first elected when we passed the Measure Q bond, so I'm the only person up here that can say that they've been there from day one of a bond, getting the Citizens Oversight Committee set up, dealing with vendors, dealing with architects, things like that. So I've been to every school site multiple times. I speak with administrators, school board members, many, sometimes multiple times a week. I've spoken with school board members this week. I spoke with the superintendent probably 2 weeks ago. We definitely need cooperation between the school and the city. There were times when I first was elected to the school board where the relationship was not good. And I made it a point that I was elected the same time as Jeff Ginsburg in District 1. I lived in District 1 and worked in District 1. So let's meet for lunch. And we started having monthly meetings where we would just meet, talk, become friends, and then figure out how we can help things. What's going on inside the city? What's going on in the schools? Hey, we've asked this question, we haven't heard back. What's going on? How can we help? How can we make things better? And the relationship really did get far better. So I would want to make sure that I am cooperating with the schools, helping them, because they really are our largest employer, our largest landowner in the city.
All right, keep it going.
So last July, I met with Superintendent Wesley and Raymer Flynn. I'm in constant contact with Byung Cho, who invited me to lunch, once he got elected and the like. And I'll tell you this. It's a great partnership that we have with the school district. We just had a discussion at council last week at our mid-year budget. We are spending $555,000 on crossing guards right now at 27 intersections, including 17 intersections that are adjacent to schools. Zero money is coming from the school district. Zero money is coming from any of the private schools that we serve. And there are residents out there who reasonably are demanding more crossing guards. You know what though? With the amount of property tax that people are paying here, the valuations of homes, who we're attracting, the families that are coming here for our schools, it's understandable that people want more crossing guards and want their kids to be able to walk and bike to school in a safer environment. So we're gonna work on that. I just talked to Director Cho today about it, and we're gonna make progress on our school district city cooperation.
All right, let's go. Gentlemen, who else is left? Let me hear from you on this.
So when I started the process, well, by way of background, I used to be on the board of the Redondo Beach Educational Foundation. So I actually know and work with many of the school board members and actually have the endorsement from our former superintendent, Stephen Keller. And at the beginning of the process, I met with Rolf and Dan Elder, a couple of our school board members, to talk about issues at the schools. In District 2, we have the high school, but also Paris Middle School here in South Redondo, as well as Barrel Elementary School. And so the issues surrounding the schools in terms of students getting to and from classes, everything from bike paths to e-bikes, are important issues to the homeowners around the schools, as well as all the other residents. So they're a large part of what happens in District 2, and I've been speaking with them on an ongoing basis.
Okay, who's left?
Okay. Yeah, okay, here we are. I just drew a blank there for a second, but District 2, I'm right next to the high school, and Paris, where my son goes. And courtesy of my kids, I'm getting to know every teacher and all the principals over the years. Sometimes good, sometimes bad, but anyways, they do their best, and I'm proud of them. But as far as the schools, somebody mentioned e-bikes too, and getting to school. I really appreciate the fact that the police were doing these, I don't know what you call them, little seminars for the kids, and the schools are doing the e-bike certification courses. So once they take that, they can get to school safely, or they're allowed to take it, an e-bike. And the crossing guards, great thing for their safety. But unfortunately, I work out of the city right now, and it's about 6 days a week. So I haven't had the opportunity to meet the superintendents and share my vision, but it sounds similar to the health and welfare of the citizens. So that's my point of view.
Okay, and then we'll finish with you.
So if some of you may not even know, because I find this all the time, that I am on the school board right now, wrapping up my first 4 years there. And it's a symbiotic relationship. You can't have a school district without a city, and you can't have a city without a school district. The crossovers is where we need the work, and we're working through that. For example, Lewis brought up the e-bikes. That's a big issue in our city, and it's growing. And the school district has implemented the training programs where they have to get a sticker on their bike and taking this training program, so at least they've done that. It doesn't mean they are going to wear the helmet, but they know that they really should. It doesn't mean they are going to stop at the stop sign, but they know they should. And as soon as they leave school property, the school has no jurisdiction. So we need to work together with the police and whoever else is doing it. And not just the stick, but the carrot too. Kyle Ostrom was handing out $5 Starbucks card, which our high school kids love if he saw them doing something good. They did have their helmets on and they had them strapped. That's a great thing. But you need enforcement too. We all were kids, and when we were kids, we'd get away with anything we could. But when we got caught, we learned our lesson, and you need that getting caught aspect to things. There's, it was brought up about crossing guards. We've got to share some of this. I think for a lot of years, the schools and the city just kind of coexisted, but now we're seeing things mingling more because budgets are a big deal. As Zane mentioned, over $500,000 a year on crossing guards alone. The city pays for the elections for the school district. The city pays probably about 75% of the two SROs, the school resource officers that we have. We want to have a little more cost sharing on that. We both benefit, but sharing and working out how that sharing is. We have property exchanges. It's a very complex set of things, and it's been piecemealed over the years, and now we're taking a look at it as a holistic approach to say, yes, we exchange this property, this has a certain value, we're gonna help you with e-bikes in this area, you help us over here with this area, we'd like to have a fireworks show at the stadium, would you help us out with that? The crossover is increasing, and just having that dialogue is critically important, and the understanding from both sides that we all need to do our part.
You mentioned, Zane, the crossing guard is actually one of the questions I was getting to. And the reason why I asked this particular question as relates to the school district and whether what's your relationship, have you visited there? Because part of some of the conversations I've heard is that relationship can be improved. But I want to get everyone on the record here. Redondo Beach Unified School is one of the largest employers, okay? So that is the case. Typically speaking, we've talked about the number of the population that they represent, but is everyone here on the same page of what I hear Rolf and Zane is that the school district should pay in full or at least partial for crossing guards? Is that what we're saying?
So what he said is right in that there's a lot of exchanges right now. We're using school district property. So it's a complex scenario, but we have a subcommittee of Councilmember Kalajerovich and Councilmember Lowenstein working with the subcommittee at the school district to try to arrange everything. Now, those of us not on the subcommittee, however, due to the Brown Act, we can't chat with them about what agreements they've reached, where discussions are at. So in a hearing like last Tuesday, it comes to a head. Oh my goodness, where's the subcommittee? Why don't we have results yet? It's because they're negotiating and discussing major land swaps. But the relationship is productive, is cooperative, and I think we're going to head to a better place in terms of our symbiotic relationship.
Can I hear from everyone, is that an area, particularly as it relates to crossing guards, should the school district be responsible for funding that specifically? Can I ask that question? Is that fair?
We'll allow that, yes.
You'll allow that? Okay, thank you. Yeah, that's pretty much a yes or no. Or
I believe they should share, because if they want kids getting there safely, if the attendance drops and they move elsewhere, those schools, well, not these, but eventually start to close down if there's no kids left. So let's get some crossing guards. Let's share the bill.
Okay, Brad, let me hear from you on that.
I'm not quite sure if the school should pay for it. I would like to talk more, be part of that subcommittee, and find out what's going on. Because, like we've said, the schools do a lot, and once the kids are off campus, it is the city's responsibility. When I was on the board, the city provided one officer and the school paid for the second officer. So the school said, we want more, so we're going to pay for that. It could be that there is some base level of funding for crossing guards that makes sense, but paying it in full, I'm not quite so sure.
Chadwick, you have an opinion?
I think it comes down to the information that comes out of this subcommittee, meaning that I'm sure over the last 100 years that the school district has been in existence, certain expenses have been covered by the city, certain expenses have been covered by the district. And so working out how those costs get allocated is coming back to that negotiation between the city and the school district. I think they should probably pick up some, but it has to be in context with other services and expenses that the city picks up versus the school district.
Okay, fair enough. Let's pivot now to a conversation regarding SB 9. SB 9 is the view of the state regarding state legislature that was passed. It talks about eliminating single zoning housing, but allows up to 4 units on a single lot. We know housing is a challenge here in the South Bay, is an issue for all of Los Angeles, for that matter, Los Angeles County, and particularly in light of the things that have happened. For example, the natural disaster that happened just north of us, housing continues to be affordable housing continues to be an issue. I want to have you comment on this issue of SB 9. SB 9, no particular order, free fall, go.
I'll start off with that one. Yeah, SB 9, the fact that we're a charter city, and some people don't know that we're a charter city, so basically we have our own constitution. About a quarter of the cities in the state of California are charter cities. It gives us local control authority. The state tried to override that with a matter of statewide concern, they declared it, that was housing. Housing crisis gets used a lot. So SB 9 passed and the city fought it. And we joined with a couple other cities to say, no, we're a charter city. This is a local control. Our zoning should be locally controlled. And so far we've won. That's my understanding. The state is appealing that. So it's not over yet. But you got to continue to fight those battles, because everybody that I've talked to personally, they do not support something like that. You can't build your way out of a housing crisis in Redondo Beach. We're doing our part. Our RENA number was 2,490 this last cycle. That's just in 8 years. So we are doing things, but SB 9 would destroy our single-family residences, and people love their single-family residences. I live in one. I love it. And we want to keep that. We have a huge variety of housing throughout our city, from north to south. Even within District 1, we have the most dense areas in the entire city in District 1 and probably some of the least dense. We have a mix. You need a mix of things and a variety to be successful and desirable.
All right. Someone else on SB 9.
I believe, I get these SBs confused, but I believe we challenged SB 9, we won, but then the state amended its law so that it would apply to charter cities. And so it is applicable in Redondo, I believe, right now, or it's in the process of being enacted. With that said, I've spoken to developers who build all those, Merritt and Dory and Joe Nuzzulo, and there's a tacit agreement that they're not going to exploit this in Redondo Beach, that they're going to still continue to build. They're converting single-family homes to 2 on a lots, as they do in District 4, but they're not taking full advantage of it. And the main issue posed by this is that we're just not generating enough revenue from the additional residents that are coming in through all this to be able to support them with fire, police, public works, et cetera. So that's where we need support from the state, and we'll continue to try to challenge the state where we think that they're violating the city's rights as a charter city. But it's an uphill battle because by and large, it's recognized in the state of California, the #1 sentiment is that the affordability crisis is the most serious challenge facing the state right now.
All right, someone else on this issue. Anyone want to weigh in?
100% agree with Rolf, and also we need to keep our housing plan current and certified so that we can avoid builder's remedy, because we don't want to have something that was going to be here happen and kill the spirit of Redondo Beach. We don't want it to be Recondo Beach, so that's my position.
Okay, others?
In talking to residents over the last roughly 6 months, I've knocked on over 1,200 doors, spoken to many of you here. In all those conversations, overdevelopment was one of the top concerns. Only one person wanted more housing. Everyone else is very concerned about this. Everyone else wants us to keep fighting Sacramento to make sure that the Redondo Beach that we all love stays the same. So that's something that I would plan to continue as a city council member.
Okay.
Sure. SB 9 is definitely overreach, and I would be happy to continue the fight that our city attorney's office is doing about going to Sacramento and fighting for our own local control. Housing is inevitable, development of some part is inevitable, but turning single-family housing into 4 on a lot is way over the top. That's just something that does not fit.
All right, let's stay there. Pivot slightly, development. Our tax base in Redondo Beach, when you talk about business, when you talk about property tax, when you talk about things like hotels, and supporting some of these initiatives, some of these big ideas, things we want to do as a city, addressing issues of infrastructure, supporting our fire and police, doing more with our school district. I mean, this takes resources. We only have so much money in that pot. Let's talk about this issue of development, thus slow growth, pro-growth, this idea that Redondo Beach has a number of different problem areas, a number of different challenges when it comes to some of these issues. We need the resources. Are we a slow growth? This idea of having Redondo remain Redondo, I've heard it. We don't want to become Culver City. We don't want to become Santa Monica, right? But you can't have it both ways. We talked about this high school and all of these students coming. They go off to college, they come back. Or the ability to afford a place to live, or people who are retired, the ability to live here with dignity and meet those particular personal needs that they may have. I want to hear your views on this issue of slow growth, pro-growth in terms of businesses, people investing in our community, et cetera, et cetera. What's your posture with regard to that?
Go for it.
Sure. In Redondo Beach, slow growth is often a key word for no growth. So I would say I'm for smart growth. We have to look at how are we going to move forward, how are we going to advance. And as I said earlier, the biggest issue is revenue. our property tax has been supporting us because our sales tax is up 6% in 10 years. Inflation is 30% in those 10 years. So the way that we can support all of this is through some sort of smart growth where we have the businesses coming in. If that means there's going to be some mixed use with businesses on the bottom and some housing on top in certain locations, that might be the way to do it so that we can come up with something that's economically viable that will bring in the building that we need for both the business and that then helps with our residence areas. But we need the money coming in from businesses before we can really support everything that we want to do.
Okay, I want to hear everyone weigh in on this. This is an important issue. Yep.
So on commerce, we absolutely need growth at the Galleria, for example. That's dead. That was a tax generator. We absolutely need redevelopment on Artesia Boulevard. When I got elected, Councilmembers Lowenstein and Ehrenheim helped me increase, plan or study the environmental impact of increasing the floor area ratio on Artesia Boulevard to 1.5 from at the time 0.5. That means that if you have 1,000 square feet of property, you can only build 500 square feet of property. That's why there's so much empty space on Artesia Boulevard with these massive parking lots. So we've done that environmental study. We just certified the EIR, but it's taken 4 years to get to this point where we can even discuss it at council in March and then put it on the ballot for everybody to decide whether we should move to a 1.5 FAR. But that's what we're going to need to do in order to attract redevelopment, reinvestment, because nobody's going to tear down an existing building that's at 0.5 FAR just to replace it with another 0.5 FAR building.
All right.
So one of the things in District 2, we have the King Harbor Amenities Plan, and part of that is handling the vacancies. I see a few business owners here from the harbor. The city actually owns a number of those properties and collects money from the leasing of those spaces. So in addition to being a source of revenue, that's going to be a source of employment for the city. In terms of housing, when you add housing, in addition to the traffic that comes along with that, you have families moving in, which have students, which means that our school district would grow from roughly 10 to 12,000 students, maybe to 15, where right now we're at capacity at the high school and several of the middle schools. So there are other problems that come with adding, a copious amount of housing element. But I think for Redondo, we can take advantage of the low-hanging fruit, dealing with our vacant space. Last summer, I did a quick analysis, and between Torrance Boulevard and 190th, there was over 100,000 vacant square feet of retail and commercial space just in District 2. So I think if we were able to fill that, that's going to generate extra tax revenue for the city and let us do more of the capital projects and support services like our fire department and police.
All right, others to weigh in on this question.
Yep, slow growth. It needs a variety. Residential, our real estate taxes only contribute about 60% of our total city budget that we need to operate. So adding more residential is not a winning game. It adds more burden to what we need for services, what we need for expenditures. So the key is, again, that variety that we need. You look at the places that have succeeded. Riviera Village is doing great. They need some improvements. We've got some ideas on things to do down there to make it even better and draw people in there, because that sales tax is critical to the city. The transit occupancy tax, the TOT we get from the hotels, is critical to the city. All these build and share in contributing. So we need more of the local businesses. You look at Just Poke on PCH, Jeff and Stephanie Snow's place. They've worked on that for 11 years. There is a line out the door constantly. That's the kind of successful stuff that a young family poured their heart into and they've been extremely successful with. There's another one, La Terraza, the coffee shop. Beto and Cynthia Juarez's place. It's a great place to just go and hang out. It's not Starbucks. It's a little bit different. We see the blight happening on PCH now too. We've got to do things to incentivize people to come in there. We don't have big box in the city. I don't want a Costco at the AES site. Sorry, I'm not going to do that. I love Costco, but I'm not going to put one there. So we have to make it up in a variety of ways. We don't have car dealerships much anymore. We have Platinum Auto, which is, my understanding, is one of our top 10 tax revenue producers. That's great. But we just don't have the big stuff like Torrance does, and we need to backfill that with more and more smaller ones, and they can be successful. And the dynamics of that are changing. It's not all going to be coffee shops. It's not all going to be restaurants, but things can be successful, and we've got to help those people. You mentioned the permitting before. We've got to streamline that, and it is getting better. I agree with that. But so when a business comes in, they can fairly start off and build something new and have that chance to succeed like so many people have.
Okay, and I think, Louis.
Yeah, incentives are key, like what Rolf said. And also in the harbor, like Chad mentioned, District 2, that's like the heart and soul of the income for the city, for that area. And a lot of those restaurants have a lot of equipment to move in and move out. So if we offer them longer term leases, maybe they feel like, hey, we'll be here for a little while, and they'll stay and they'll attract more business and generate more income for the city. So we have to just incentivize them like that.
All righty, let's turn to a couple of other things before we wrap up. Let's talk about character. Let's talk about ethics. Let's talk about values. David Brooks, in his book, The Road to Character, talks about eulogy virtues versus resume virtues. This idea of there are things for which you can go to school for, and there are things for which will outlast the educational experience you've had. It's that essence, the character. I often say that your talent will get you in the room. Your character is what will have you remain in the room. Honesty, decency, empathy, compassion, eulogy virtues versus resume virtues. How important it is for character of an elected official? I want you to speak to that broadly or as you see fit. How important it is for ethics, character, values, honesty? Speak to that.
Let me jump on that. So I made 3 promises when I first ran for office in Redondo Beach. Increase public safety, make our streets safer, four promises. Bring good business to Artesia Boulevard, and 4th, get something going on the SCE right-of-way, that green belt in North Redondo. I was not able, to be candid, dead in the water on the 4th one. Unable to do anything, achieve anything with SCE to get anything going underneath the power lines. But on every other front, I have upheld and fought hard, and thanks to cooperation and the votes from my southern colleagues, Lowenstein and Nierenheim, to get everything that I've sought for Artesia Boulevard, for our parks in Redondo Beach, for public safety. Councilmember Nierenheim brought to our attention how dilapidated our fire stations were. That's what precipitated us going ahead with Measure FP. So I think I've been the consummate professional with regard to my work as a council member, and indeed, I have some mistakes in my professional career, and I'm paying the hefty price for that.
All right. I want everyone real quick to speak on this issue of character, ethics.
Ethics and character can be brutal. It takes a stand on things. You got to be willing to take the hits with it too. When I figured out as a school board member, I was being paid in violation of our city charter and violation of California law, California Ed Code, I immediately sent an email, said, take me out of this. Everything I found says I'm not supposed to be getting this money. Shortly after that, I wrote a check to the school district and paid back every penny they had given me because I didn't feel right about it. That wasn't easy to do. I shouldn't say it wasn't easy. It wasn't comfortable to just do that. I had to make a choice. And I made that choice. I said, this is the right thing to do. And I admit it, I was wrong for accepting it. I paid it all back and I didn't want anything to do with it. I've been chastised for that and attacked for that, but I will stand behind it because it was the right thing to do. I walk with our treasurer, Eugene Solomon. He's been helping with my campaign, and one of the things he talks about is sometimes you just have to look at something and say, that ain't right. And if it ain't right, let's fix it. So what we've done now is we have fixed it. We've changed our city charter. We put a charter amendment on, it passed. The school board can be paid again now, legally. That's great. I'm in favor of that. If you don't like the law or the law isn't working, change the law. Don't violate it. And so, taking that stand is you will get attacked, chastised for doing that, and you have to be willing to stand up for that. And I did, and I'm proud of doing that.
All right. Others on this issue of character, ethics? Yep.
Yeah, character is vitally important. I've got many years serving on boards of directors, California State PTA, all the way down through local PTA. 8 years on the school board, 4 years on the SoCal Rock board. We had to make hard decisions. When we had to close the schools for COVID, I was president of the board. I had to deal with that. I had to listen to people who were not happy about that. When we were one of the first districts to reopen the schools, I had to hear about that. There were people that were not happy. I listened to them, and we cooperated and figured out how we could do things. One thing I would not do is I would not look at something and say, oh, look, that's wrong. Let me go file charges against my fellow school board members. Let me go off and say things that without talking to them first. I would go talk to the school board members and say, hey, this is an issue. We've got something. What do we want to do about it? Let's talk to our attorney. Let's figure out. Let's get ahead of this. I would do it that way, which is a little bit different.
All right.
I think character is important, and going back to the earlier question of leadership, many of you I've met, it's very easy today to go online and look up someone's resume, do a Google search on them to see what their resume is. But I've tried to meet as many constituents in District 2 as possible so that they would get to know me as a person. People and organizations that I've been in here in Redondo Beach, of course, know my track record in terms of the work that I've done. But for new people in District 2, I wanted them to meet me as a person so that they could see that there's a real person, and that even if they don't agree with a specific decision that comes out of the city council, they'll understand that maybe there was something in closed session or some other information that came into play, and that I will listen to them and consider what they have to say and try to fit it into the best decision for all of us.
Yeah, Louis.
Well, I'm new to this politics thing, but I can tell you that besides my driver's license, you have to have a clean record to hold a state license. So I have 2 state licenses from California for my business and my career. So character is very important to me every day at work. If in my profession, which is land surveying, the ethics part is the most important. You come across lots of stories where the client will say, hey, I would really like that little spring to be inside my property line. Can you help me out? So for me, it's easy. I just say no. The lot line is the lot line. Here it is. And so as far as that, math is simple. It's either right or wrong. So for me, character, ethics, it's hand in hand.
All righty. We're in the final 5 minutes of our time here. It's gone by rather quickly, but I want to get everyone on the record on this real quick here. It is part of the discussion I've heard and I've actually seen with my own eyes. I've actually seen this happen within our city council chambers. The contentiousness, the vitriol, the mean-spiritedness, the posture, the tone. What specifically will you model, are you willing to do in order to address what has often been seen as contentiousness, a tone of disrespect, not only to your fellow council members, there's only obviously one here presently on, but even for folks who come to council and see that. That's been something I've heard a number of times. I want everyone here to be on the record on this. What are you willing to model, to do, to pledge tonight in order to restore civility in our discourse, in our dialogue? This is about a 30-second response from everyone here. We'll go down the line in order to move quickly here. Yep.
Having served on the charter committee, we went through some very contentious issues, and to chair that committee was a great experience because you have to listen to everybody and take in all sides. And there were times when I was actually swayed by other people, but you do it calmly. You can do it vigorously. You don't have to yell at each other. Bob Pinsler's here tonight. He served on the committee with me, and we really enjoyed going back and forth. And there were times when we didn't agree on things. Absolutely, there were times when we did, but we kept it level and even keeled. I've had the same experience on the SoCal Rock Board, where I just stepped down after 2 years as president of huge transition there. Transition is very difficult. I was the president and led us through going from a constant negative spending of about 40% deficit to now we're in the black. And we hashed things out, but we did it in a respectful way. And at the end of the night, we all really liked each other.
All right, keep it moving right here.
We're about to have a discussion next month about the code of ethics or code of conduct for council. But I think it goes back to what I said about leadership. It takes diplomacy Diplomacy in the way that you interact with other council members, diplomacy in the way that you interact with staff, and diplomacy in the way that you interact with residents. Residents come up, they have their 3 minutes. The council members, they have all evening to say whatever they'd want. So a resident comes up and speaks, you disagree with them, you don't call that resident out by their name and badger them about what they just said that you disagree with. You just make the point in a diplomatic way, and we gotta set ourselves up as examples.
All right, Brad?
Civility has been part of my platform since I ran 4 years ago. I'm on the record 8 years ago speaking at a city council meeting, calling for civility because of everything that goes on in our city. And I pled with the council members up there to do something about it, and none of them did. So I will be there. I will set the example. If something is going on, if there are anonymous attacks out there that are supporting me, if it's just made out there anonymous and people are making up stuff, I will speak out against that.
For me, it comes down to listening and listening with respect. I've found that people that disagree with me on specific issues, once they know that I will actually listen to them and hear them out about whatever the issue is, that they actually appreciate that, and that tend to reflect back the respect that I've given them.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, you don't do us easy, but you do us right. Excuse me. And whenever there's a problem or there's contentious activity, you just address the issue. You don't attack the person. And so if everybody understands, hey, we're trying to work for the city, we're in service for the citizens, you know, they're expecting us to make something happen for them. So my feeling is that these things are easy. Getting along with people is easy. The issue sometimes is contentious, but that's not the person. That's just the issue. So we look at the reasons why it's important to the community. We analyze, is it a good benefit or is it a detriment to the citizens? And we come up with a course of action.
Best thing about the city of Redondo Beach that's happening today. Best thing about the city of Redondo Beach that's happening today. You're out and about and you're bragging about this place. There's a lot happening, a lot of opportunities, great environment, great weather, food, et cetera, events. What's the best thing about Redondo Beach?
The changes that are occurring at the waterfront. The International Boardwalk just got pavers. We're going to reseal the top there so that they can stop getting leaks. The the California Surf Club is going to be a multi-million-dollar redevelopment open to the public and an accompanying restaurant. It's beautiful down there. And we're working on an educational center where the Joe's Crab Shack is. So great things are happening at the waterfront right now.
Everyone weigh in on this. Thanks, Zane. Yep.
California Surf Club plus dining decks in Riviera Village.
All right.
I would say it's overall our future here in Redondo. We have a great city, a lot of great opportunities ahead of us. Good things are coming across the city from Artesia to the waterfront to the Riviera. And I would say that, you know, if we were going out to brag to our friends about Redondo Beach, it's a great city with a great future ahead.
Okay. Yep.
Well, I love the ocean air. I love the sunsets. You mentioned it earlier. And it's just no better weather than the South Bay. I mean, this is the place to live. I mean, look at it, you know. I love it. I love it here. Been here since 1969, so it's my home.
All right, Ralph, we'll close with you.
Keeping our local control is so critical for us. All the other things, I agree with all those things, but a lot of those things go away if we don't have our local control, maintaining the power of our charter so that we decide what our city should be. We're making progress. All the things that we're talking about. Yes, surf club's going in, it's awesome. Or step by step, progress is happening. The pavers down at the village, we're looking at putting in pop-up bollards down at the village so that we can close it off more easily and have more events there for our families. That's great. Change is incremental, but we've got to maintain our local control, and we will fight to continue doing that.
All right, for District 1, Rolf Stossenberg, Brad Waller. For District 2, Chadwick Castle, Louis Burke. And for District 4, Zane Abaji. Will you please join me in thanking our candidates for City Council? Outstanding job. We're going to close tonight with the final roundtable, which will be that of the candidates for mayor. I want to encourage those of you who are here tonight to fill out a little index card. You can, in the back there, drop it off in the back if you have a question coming up for our mayoral candidates. Once again, join me in thanking our candidates for council. We'll get a group photo before we go.